There are some incredible ways to use Runway References. Luma now allows you to reframe any shot, and we have dozens of AI tech updates that I'm excited to show you. This is our biggest tech update of the year. Welcome to your AI film news of the week. Now, before we get going, I want to give a special shout out to everyone who attended the Promise and Curious Refuge party in Hollywood last weekend. We had an incredible time previewing our slate of upcoming films and projects, and of course, it was amazing to meet fellow creators and members of the Curious Refuge community. Thanks to everyone for coming out. We will host more events in the very near future. All right, let's get to the fun news. The first bit of news that I want to give a shout out to is Runway References. Now, Runway References isn't exactly new. It did come out a few weeks ago, but we've seen a ton of really creative and incredible use cases for the technology, and in many cases, it's actually better than using Midjourney for a lot of your image generation tasks. So I want to take a look at a few really fun ways in which you can use this technology to pull off some cool results. And before we get going, I want to give a shout out to Cristobal from Runway, who shared a roundup of some of the techniques that I'm going to be showing you in this video. So to use Runway image references, all you have to do is go to the Runway website and click on that Get Started button in the top right. And now we'll go to Generate Image. Remember, you can basically use Runway reference images together to create an image and then create a video from that image. So this is an image generation tool. So for our first example, I want to use this image of this sci-fi spaceship. Essentially, we have an establishing shot, but let's say that we actually want to reframe this image to be from behind, like behind the thrusters. Well, what's pretty cool is all you have to do using Runway References is basically draw an angle of what you want to get from the tool, and Runway can intelligently break down how to change the angle to give you the exact shot that you're looking for. So what I'll do is grab both of those images and bring them into Runway. And the cool thing is you can now label the images. So I'll just call the first one ship and the second one that has the reference drawing the back of the ship. And for our prompt, we'll say a close-up shot from behind the ship shot that shows a close-up of the blue thrusters and basically use the compositional reference from the back of ship image. And let's go ahead and click Generate. And after a few seconds, we have a few different generations here. We have number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, which looks pretty good. Honestly, it looks a lot like that ship from the angle that we're looking for. And the cool thing is it's just intelligent enough to understand how to adjust the camera angle to give you the shot that you're looking for. We also came across a cool example where it basically created custom retro futuristic UI graphics, and the result was pretty interesting. So I have this quick little image that I doodled inside of Photoshop, and basically that icon in the middle is one of the icons for Curious Refuge. And so I'll bring in that image and we'll say create a retro futuristic UI mockup that includes the dog logo from the image that we uploaded. And basically we have some other prompts that are trying to reinforce the overall look that we're going for. And after a few minutes, it created this generation, which, yeah, it looks pretty cool. It looks like a 1970s computer UI. We have this shot here. I don't know if that one did as good. This shot is pretty darn good. And this one really falls into that retro futuristic vibe. It's a little more complex, but it almost feels like something that would be on a console in the original Star Wars trilogy. It's pretty wild to me how Runway also has the ability to intelligently understand where you want to put certain subjects into your frame. So for example, we have this 2D image of this coffee shop, and let's say that we want to put a 2D version of me on the left side of this frame, maybe sitting in this bench here. Well, all I had to do is go into Photoshop and basically make a drawing around where I wanted the subject, and then I also uploaded a picture of me. And after I did all three of those things, I created a prompt that says, add Caleb, me, drinking coffee in the coffee shop, wearing a light pink jacket, using the coffee shop composition to place him in the stool on the left. So Runway understands intelligently what we're asking it to do. And when you're ready, all you have to do is hit generate. And after a few seconds, it generated a few different results here. We have number 1, and I think it gave me, either a soul patch or maybe a piercing on the bottom lip there. Maybe it's close to the way I look, not exactly. We have this shot here. I love how his legs are just suspended above the air there. Very uncomfortable seat. We have this shot here as well. I don't think he's fully sitting on that bench, so kind of levitating. And then we have this shot where it put a new bench here, and yeah, it's not too bad. It definitely looks like me in cartoon form holding on to a cup of coffee. Now, are the results perfect from Runway? No, but at least for early conceptualizing and getting your ideas onto the screen in a way that is pretty close to what you're looking for, I think this new reference feature is really impressive. So this last example is probably the most impressive that I've seen up to this point. So let's say that you're in the pre-production process and you have a mood board that illustrates the way in which you want your scene to look. Well, I have this very rough mood board here. You could create this in Canva or in Pinterest. It doesn't really matter. And all you have to do is import it into your reference image section inside of Runway. And we'll say create a photorealistic image of a living room using the objects found in @home design. And go ahead and click generate. And after a few seconds, we have this image here, and it did an incredible job at taking all of those elements and putting them into the image. Now, of course, some of the images are a little weird. For example, this couch here, I'm pretty sure that is breaking some sort of fire code, but a lot of these images are truly incredible. Like this living room looks pretty realistic, I guess, outside of the gigantic snakeskin wall, which maybe that is very 70s. I'm not entirely sure. And we have this living room here. And yeah, it looks really darn good, especially if you're using it as a creative jumping off point in the early stages of production. I think updates like this inside of AI creative tools that we use every single day are simply incredible because it allows you to just stay inside of the creative flow state. So hats off to you, Runway, for pulling off this incredible update. And if you have any other use cases that you want to share, be sure to let us know in the comments of this video. The team at Luma has come out with the ability to reframe your videos utilizing their tool. So this is not the first time that we've had a video tool that allows you to do reframing, but I think this might be the best and easiest to use reframing tool that we've had up to this point. Let me show you how to use it. To use this new feature, all you have to do is log into your Luma account and then go ahead and click this little icon. It looks like a pencil to edit your media. So I think there are kind of two different use cases for this technology. The first is converting footage that was shot in 16:9 or a wide aspect ratio into 9:16 so that it's optimized for social media. So let's take a look at this first use case. So I have this video clip here of a previous web show that we put together, and let's say that we want to change the aspect ratio because we are sharing it on social media. Well, in order to do that, all we have to do is drag and drop the video clip into Luma. And once it's uploaded, go ahead and click on the reframe icon and you can select any aspect ratio you want. We'll do 9:16, and I think I actually want to scale this up just a little bit so the subject isn't too small. And when you're ready to render, go ahead and click the generate button. And after a few minutes, it generated this result here. And to be fully honest, I never would have noticed any sort of outpainting here. It does get a little weird at the end. There's kind of some gray static that begins to be introduced into the frame. I'm not entirely sure why, but long story short, it really did an amazing job. Now, the other use case that I think is really compelling is, of course, in the name, and that is having the ability to reframe your shots. Instead of having to go in and do reshoots, you can utilize this tool. So I have the shot here of this guy, and of course he's on the left side of the frame, but let's say that we want to reframe him to be on the right side. Well, again, all you have to do is drag and drop the video into Luma, and we'll go ahead and click on that reframe button, go to 16:9, and let's just kind of move him over to the right. So about there, and go ahead and click generate. And after a few minutes, it generated this video clip here, and honestly, it did a pretty good job. There's a ton of continuity in the lines. I will say that there is a slight vertical line that goes up and down on the left side of the frame, so you might need to clean that up inside of your video editing application. But for a quick and dirty reframing tool, I really don't think there's a better option on the market outside of Luma Dream Machine. And speaking of Luma, I want to give them a big shout out for sponsoring the event out in Hollywood this last week. We had an amazing time chatting with their team. And I also want to give a special shout out to the team at Devant. They brought this incredible AI photo booth studio with them that basically converted people in the crowd into different AI styles. It was really cool to have their technology at the event. So if you're looking for a really fun piece of technology to have at your next event, I highly recommend reaching out to the team at Devant. Now, Runway is not the only AI tool developer to come out with references recently. The team at Hunyaun has come out with the ability to allow you to take different images and stitch them together inside of your video generations. There are a ton of really interesting examples over on the white paper's website. For example, we have this image of this woman wearing a very specific outfit, and you can see she looks like she's inside of that downtown city. We have this video here of this guy holding a very specific bag of chips, and yeah, it did a pretty good job. It also has the ability to take reference video and apply certain elements to the scene. So we have this magician video here, and we want to put a Mickey Mouse hat on the magician, and easy peasy, we swapped out the hat. It also has the ability to generate multiple subjects. So you see we have these two characters here, and it generated both of them inside of the scene. And then finally, we have this very specific image of this woman and this cat. And basically, we want her to be painting this cat drawing on an easel. And you can see we prompted for painting, but technically, I think it looks like she's more dusting off that painting. It definitely doesn't look realistic, and she's really not paying attention to what she's painting there. So she's either a prodigy or definitely not painting that painting. There are so many incredible examples over on the website, but I do want to note that you can go to a Hugging Face to test out this technology for yourself. You can also download it to your computer, and you can try it online on the Hunyaun website, but you have to have a Chinese phone number, so it's a bit of a workaround in order to use the technology online. And it wouldn't be a Curious Refuge video if we didn't compare this to other technology, so we ran the same two images of the woman and the cat through Runway, and it created this result here. And I actually think the Runway generation is quite a bit better, but the big distinction is it's not open source. And so Hunyaun is open source. You can download it to your computer and run it locally on your machine. You don't have to pay anybody any money for those generations. So it's pretty wild that these incredible, highly funded companies can come out with technology, and then open source rivals seem to come out just a few weeks or a few months later. It just goes to show you that AI technology is truly evolving at an incredible rate. And speaking of incredible rates, the team at LTX Studios has released their own open source video model that they claim is 30 times faster than some of the major competitors on the market. The big innovation here is something they call multi-scale rendering that basically allows them to render the videos at the macro and the micro scale at the same time. So you get really good macro physics and high fidelity details in the same video frame. To use this new model, all you have to do is go over to the LTX Studio website and go ahead and click on Motion Generator. So from here, you can see we have add an image. So you can add in a start image and an end image if you want to. And so for our image, we're going to use this high resolution photo of this astronaut here that was generated inside of Midjourney. And we'll say an astronaut looks around with fear. Now, you do have the ability to change the duration to up to 9 seconds, which is pretty cool. And I should note that there are a few other video models that you can select from here. So they have the LTX V model that we are demoing right now, LTX V Turbo, and then Google VO2, which it says high cost, but I should note that Google VO2 is already much cheaper when you utilize it inside of LTX Studio versus going to other tools like Krea. So let's turn the intensity a little higher than 50% and click Generate Video. So after just a few seconds, it generated this video here, and I gotta say, It's really expressive, and I love how the light is reflecting off the helmet. It just helps the entire thing feel more realistic and less AI generated. And of course, I wanted to compare this to other AI video generation tools on the market. So here's the same example from Kling, and I think Kling did a really good job. So nice work, Kling. We have this shot from Runway, which again looks pretty darn realistic. The movement's pretty simple, but it still looks real. And then we have this shot from Google VO2. So probably the most movement from the actual character, but not a lot of camera movement there. And I think that there's some wonkiness happening with the parallaxing. So I think in this example, Kling takes the cake, but I think LTX Studio is in a close second or third place. So a really good result from LTX. And I also wanted to test out this image of this cowboy here. You can see he's just kind of standing in the desert. And here's our result from LTX Studio. And yeah, I think the lens dynamics look really good. There is a level of choppiness that I've found with the LTX Studio models. So when there's a ton of parallaxing like that and the background's really moving, there are moments where it can get kind of jittery. And so I think that's really on display in this video example. Let's take a look at the same result from Kling. So we have the cowboy looking at the camera. And yeah, looks really, really good. Here's the result from Runway. So you can actually see it's pretty similar in terms of movement from the result that we got from LTX, but I think the overall fidelity, like not only the resolution, but also just the interpolation fidelity between the frames looks a lot more smooth from Runway. So I think a better result from Runway. And then finally, we have this result from VO2. And the cowboy just has a lot more movement in his steps. I think the camera movement is more realistic. So I think in this specific instance, VO2 is best and LTX Studio performed the worst. So is LTX Studio the best AI video tool on the market? Absolutely not. But the fact that it's so fast and it's just another AI video tool that's in your arsenal really creates a lot more competition that will ultimately force these other video models to get even better. The team at Heygen has released Avatar 4, and the results have been absolutely mind-blowing. Not only is this the most realistic image to animation tool that we've seen for lip syncing, it also performs incredibly well for non-human characters. Let me show you how to use it. To use Avatar 4, all you have to do is go to the Heygen website, and we'll do photo to video with Avatar 4. So I have this image here of this Yeti guy who kind of looks like the most interesting man in the world. So we'll go ahead and drag and drop that into Heygen. And I also generated a voice inside of 11 Labs for this character. Let's take a quick listen.
I don't always drink wine, but when I do, it's Gorilla Grigio.
Perfect Yeti voice. So we'll go ahead and click on Upload and drag and drop our voice into Heygen and click Add Audio. And when you're ready, go ahead and click Generate Video. So the whole process takes a few minutes to complete. Let's take a look at our results.
I don't always drink wine, but when I do, it's Gorilla Grigio.
I love the head nod there at the end. So it's pretty cool because you can see this is a non-human character and it really does a lot of dynamic movement with the mouth. It's also really good at animating characters who are not looking directly at the camera, which is really hard for other lip syncing tools to pull off. And the other thing I want to note is it also generates animation in other parts of the video frame that can just help with the overall realism. So Heygen Avatar 4 is absolutely mind-blowing. So if you're in the early stages of building an animatic, or even if you want to do some compositing work to take this lip sync and put it on a different character, I absolutely recommend testing out this tool to see how you can use it inside of your creative projects. In white paper news, we came across a research experiment from the team at Stanford where they basically have come out with an AI video model that has the ability to create 60-second long videos from a laptop. Now, they said it renders pretty quickly at 2.5 seconds a frame. I don't know how quick that is because if you actually generated a 1 minute long video, it would take 75 minutes to actually generate that video clip. But I guess compared to where we were just a year or two ago, it actually is pretty quick. They have some pretty cool 60-second examples over on their website. We have this guy doing some Tai Chi on a mountain. Okay, cool. We have this DJ guy who's just like sitting there, just DJing, having a great time. And of course, the obligatory AI video demo of someone dancing. Now, I don't think that this video tool specifically would be great for generating photorealistic results, but the fact that you have the ability to generate a video clip that is super long and can stay in a stationary shot really tells me that it would be really helpful for doing environmental design. If you're working on a billboard or you need to have a longer loop in a motion design style, I think a tool like this would be incredibly helpful for creating essentially ambient design that can live on the walls. The team at Midjourney released Omni References, which is essentially an expanded character reference tool inside of Midjourney that allows you to take people, objects, or even locations and bring them into your generations. Essentially, it's like the Runway References feature that we talked about earlier, just Midjourney's version. So is this tool any good? Well, let's take a look. So to use the feature, all you have to do is go to the Midjourney website. We'll go to our settings icon here and make sure that we're in Midjourney 7. From here, we'll type in the prompt, a cinematic still of a man holding a big cup in a rural Colorado gas station at night. And yes, that is a Dumb and Dumber joke. So all you have to do to use Omni Reference is go ahead and click the image icon, and you see we have Omni Reference here. So I'm going to use this picture of me for Omni Reference. And I should note that there is a specific code called OW for Omni Weight. It's just --OW space. And from here, you have the ability to dial it in between 0 and 1000. 100 is the default. So if you need a specific character, you want to update the Omni reference to be a higher number. Now, they did get rid of character weight, which is unfortunate because you don't have the ability to kind of dial in how close you want it to be to the original character. So we'll say Omni weight of 400 and go ahead and click generate. Okay, let's take a look at our generations here. So number one, I'm wearing an orange jacket apparently, and that's like the biggest bottle I've ever seen. It's also not a big gulp, so I really don't know what's going on there. We have this shot here, and that guy, I guess, kind of looks like me, but again, it's not the clothes I was wearing. The big gulp looks absolutely ridiculous, and it's just not a very good generation. We have this one here. Again, not a very good result. And then finally, we have this one here, and I don't know what's going on with his face there. It just got all jumbled. So again, not a great result. And if we do the same thing inside of Runway, it generated this result here, which is definitely way, way better than the result from Midjourney. So I will say if you need an easy tool for pulling off consistent products or characters, Runway References is a better tool than Midjourney at the moment. I will say that I still recommend using Midjourney at this point to generate your imagery for your films, because there are just a lot of editable features and ways in which you can push your generations in a certain direction that is a bit more challenging in other AI image generation tools. But the days of Midjourney being so much better than the other image generators on the market seem to be behind us. The team at Higgsfield has come out with a ton of really cool features lately, and the latest fun tools that you can play around with are called effects. Let me show you how to use them. To use Higgsfield Effects, just go to the Higgsfield website and click on Effects at the top. They have a ton of effects that you can mess around with. Let's go ahead and do the soul jump. And you can see it kind of creates this like ghost effect that kind of rises out of your body. And let's go ahead and click the generate button. So I'm going to bring in this image of me, and we'll go ahead and drag and drop that into Higgsfield. And when you're ready, go ahead and click the generate button. And after a few minutes, we have this result here. You can see the ghost just comes away from his body. It's a pretty fun effect. And they have a few different other effects that are just super weird and fun to play around with. Here's the flying effect in action. So you can see he just decides to go flying off into the distance. Not a great result, but it's kind of hilarious. And then finally, I wanted to change from me into a frog character. So I used their skin morph effect. And so it created this frog version of Mystique, which definitely is not going to haunt me in my dreams tonight. Transitioning over to something a little more practical, the team at Krea has integrated Topaz into their platform. So you now have the ability to upres your images and your videos directly inside of Krea. To use the feature, just go over to the Krea website and click Upscale and Enhance. From here, it's going to ask you to upload your asset. You can upload an image, you can upload a video. It doesn't really matter. We'll bring in our image from Runway References, and you can see over on the right, you have the ability to upres it to up to 22,000 pixels wide, which is way wider than you probably will ever need it to be. I'm not going to do that. I'll go ahead and just click the ×8, which still makes it 15,000 pixels wide, which is gigantic. And everything else I'll leave as default. And I do want to note that make sure your model is set to Topaz. They do have a Krea Enhance that is good, but not quite as good as Topaz. So make sure you're running the Topaz model and click Enhance. And after a few minutes, it generated this result here. So there's the before and there's the after. Let's really zoom in so we can compare the two here. So before, you can see it just much more pixelated. And then after, we have this result. It adds just a lot more fidelity to the character. It gives it a lot more realism as long as you ignore the sign that says Karada. And I should note, you can do the exact same thing for video. So I took that video generation from LTX Studio earlier, and I wanted to upres it to 8K. And the video clip after we upresed it was over 200 megabytes. And there's just a lot of fidelity. For example, you can look on the astronaut's helmet here, and there's just reflections and dust and distortion just to help the overall clip look much more realistic. I think it did an amazing job. There's a brand new film that is dropping in American theaters soon that was completely dubbed and translated using artificial intelligence. The film is called Watch the Skies, and essentially the team at Flawless took not only the words that are spoken, but also the lip syncing and applied them to the actors. This is the first major film to be released in theaters utilizing this AI technology. We will, of course, be checking it out for ourselves, but the team says that essentially it's indistinguishable from reality and you can't tell the difference. In motion tracking news, the team at NVIDIA announced a brand new tool called Genmo that's pretty incredible. So there's all sorts of AI motion tracking tools that are on the market that allow you to upload video footage and basically track the characters. And of course, they've been getting better and better, but the team at NVIDIA has taken it one step further, where they basically allow you to motion track multiple video clips and also type in text prompts and audio prompts between those video clips to create seamless animation. For example, we have this video clip here of this guy walking around, and you can see it motion tracks the video. And then they typed in the prompt that says climbs up and turns back. And it looks like he climbs up some stairs and he's turning back the other direction. And then it seamlessly integrates into brand new motion tracking from a different video. So I think that this is some of the most realistic motion tracking that we've seen up to this point. If you really look at the video examples from NVIDIA, there's not a lot of slippage, and it really is a high-end motion track. As we begin to think about the future of digital studio production, whether we're talking about Gaussian splat stages or simply motion tracking utilizing just video alone, tools like this will more than likely be at the forefront. And our final bit of tech news is a white paper called Key Sync from the Imperial College in London, which sounds very, very fancy. The tool is very similar to Runway Act 1. Essentially, you upload video footage and then an audio clip, and you can sync the lips together. So let's take a quick look at one of the results.
So we just got back from trekking, and we went to 14 kilometers. It took us around 6 hours, and we just went village to village. We used Mao as our tour guide, and her mother, Mimi, is the one that taught us fatigue yesterday. We'll put their information.
Okay, so as you can see, that's a pretty realistic lip sync. Let's take another quick look at a different example.
It's an especially big problem in the county of Dorset in southern England, where farm labourers could expect to earn about 9 shillings a week, just enough for bread to support their family. Literally just eating bread.
Okay, so you get the idea. Now, you can download the code over on the website to run it locally on your machine. They also have a Hugging Face demo online that you can use to play around with the technology for yourself. There are a ton of AI film events popping up around the world. Here's a few that I think you should know about. The first is, of course, Cannes. On May 15th, the team at Promise and Curious Refuge will be speaking at the Cannes Next Pavilion. If you happen to be going to that festival, be sure to come say hello to Dave or Jagger, who are speaking at that event. We also have AI on the Lot popping up on May 27th out here in Los Angeles. I know Todd and the team at Fabric have been working hard to make that an incredible event. I highly recommend trying to make it out if you can. We also have the Reply AI Film Festival taking submissions up until June 1st. Again, the finalists of this competition will be flown out to the Venice International Film Fest, and they actually announced the full slate of judges for that event. Shelby and I will be judges for the event, and we would love to meet you in person. There's also the AI Film Festival happening in South Korea on June 7th. Runway is hosting their annual AI Film Festival in New York and Los Angeles the first and second week of June. And the Rain Festival in Barcelona is popping up on June 10th. And that brings us to our AI films of the week. The first project that I want to shout out is a funny parody of America's Funniest Home Videos from the 90s, created by Dari 3D. Essentially, they took a ton of really funny concepts and ran it through AI video generators to create a parody version of America's Funniest Home Videos. It's a really funny concept. I highly recommend checking it out. The next project that I want to shout out is a film called Lost and Found by Justin Restaino. It's a really fun concept about a dog that basically gets lost and then finds a kid, and they're running away from a robot. I don't want to spoil the ending, but let's just say there's some pretty cool AI VFX on display. And the final project I want to give a shout out to is called No Pressure by Nicholas Flandro. It's all about a rock monster living life and walking around. It was a recent submission for the Runway Gen 48 competition and a funny concept. I highly recommend checking it out. And our final bit of news comes from a white paper called LegoGPT. Essentially, some scientists worked on an AI tool that can take a bunch of Legos and then use robot arms to create Lego versions of whatever you want. And they even have the ability to do texturing and painting over the 3D generations, which is just super fun. Okay, thank you so much. And as always, I do recommend liking and subscribing here on YouTube if you want to get the latest AI video tutorials directly here on the platform. We have a ton of brand new tutorials in the pipeline that we are going to share with you over the next few weeks. So be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And of course, if you want to get film news sent directly to your email inbox, we get into a ton of news that we can't even talk about inside of these episodes. I highly recommend subscribing to our newsletter over at Curious Refuge. Now, I do want to address something that has been popping up in the comments recently. As you may have noticed, my eyes have been a little more red recently, and I just wanted to tell you why, because some people were speculating that I got into a fight or maybe my blood pressure is out of control, which I totally understand. Well, that's not the case. What actually happened is And so that's the full story. I'm glad we were able to clarify everything. Thank you so much for watching this episode of AI Film News. Thank you for being an incredible member of the Curious Refuge community. Best of luck on all of your projects.